Okay, hello and good evening. Spurmaisis Parshas Masai. These are the trips of Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar. That's the last parsha of Sefer Bamidbar. And we are going, let's Hashem, into Sefer Dvorim starting next week. Of course, we have Rosh Chodesh AV on Friday. And the beginning of the 9 days with all that it entails. So it's a very special Sipur Maisius, and I think that maybe before we get to the Maisa of the we can read the Sipur Maisius for today and get to what it is that I wanted to discuss, to the point that I wanted to make. And here we go. So we said that the emperor now did not want to get, to make a shidduch with the Burgher because, it's not befitting for somebody of his stature. And he did what he did in order to do away with the son, who was the intended bridegroom of his daughter. And her mother pleaded with the people that were in charge of the execution not to kill him. And they accepted this. And then she told her daughter, listen, you are betrothed to him, you belong to him. And she told her everything about how she went with his father to all the places of water and how she swore at every single place and took the place as a witness. So the daughter drew a map. She was very God-fearing, and she drew a map, and she sent him a frame of the map with the drawing of all the places, the pit, the ritual bath, and the other places. And she drew pictures of the pit and the ritual bath and the other places of water. And she warned him very, very strongly that he should be very, very careful to keep this note. Then she signed her name at the bottom. So after this, so it happened. The one in charge substituted another man and let the Burgher sons go. And so he went forth. He traveled and traveled until he reached the sea, where he embarked on a ship and set out to sea. And a powerful storm wind arose, carrying the ship to a desert shore. And the wind was so strong that its force broke the ship up. And the passengers, however, survived. And they reached dry land. There it was a desert. So the people of the ship went in search for food, each trying to find something to eat. Ships did not usually pass by since it was a desert area. Therefore, they could not anticipate the ship coming and bringing them home. And they went into the desert looking for food. And thus they scattered and separated. And the young men went into the desert and went on until it was very far from the shore. And when he decided to return, he could not. And the harder he tried to get back, the more distant he became, until he himself realized that it was impossible for him to return. He therefore went on in the desert and he had a bow to protect himself against wild animals in the desert. Wherever he went, he was able to find something to eat. And he went on and on until he came out of the desert and arrived to a certain place. And there was an empty place, and there was water surrounded by fruit trees. And he would eat of the fruit and drink of the water. And decided that he would settle in this area and remain there for as long as he lived. And he realized it would be difficult for him to tell civilization, and he knows that he didn't know if he would, who knows if he would find another place as good as this. Why should he leave this place and move on? And therefore decided to remain there and lived out the rest of his life in the spot. And he found a place very good, and he had fruit to eat and water to drink. And sometimes he'd go out and shoot with his bow a rabbit or deer, and he would have meat to eat. And he would catch fish, for there were very good fish in the water. He therefore felt that it would be quite good for him to stay for the rest of his day. There is a very, if you remember, when we learned the story of the exchanged children, when the real prince that was exchanged was sent away unfairly, he took himself to living a very debased life because he was very angry at the unfairness of it all. I mean, if I'm a prince, it's not enough that I lost my land. I have to also be chased away. And if I'm not the prince, I'm just a slave, why should I be sent away? What do they want from me? And because of that, he took himself to drinking, whatever. But what we're learning here is something very different. When those who are in charge of his execution send him away, he just goes, and Rabbeinu doesn't call him the son of the Burgher. Again, he calls him the Burgher. Burgher means the chosen one. As we will see, the story develops at the end. He is the one who's betrothed to the Shekhinah. That is the daughter of the emperor, and so he is Nishmas Mashiach. So the thing that typifies him, as we will say, he does go through things, as we will talk, but nevertheless, he accepts what's going on, and he is looking to find his way, the way he is, where he's at. He goes to the sea, he takes a ship, goes in the desert. Some say that the parish is that when you keep your mouth closed when other people are persecuting you, you're zecher to go to Or Ein Sof, where you are like losing your gashmias. Whatever it is, he is being thrown away from his place. If you notice, in practically all the stories of Rabbeinu, we visit separations and reunions. Separations and reunions. It's a repeated cycle. If you recall, when we learned in the Maisa Me'avedes Bas Melech, the lost princess, at the very end, he falls asleep for 70 years. And when he wakes up, he asks his servant, where am I in the world? So the servant tells him, you fell asleep and there was a carriage and the princess and she came and she lamented on you and what Rahmanas it is on you and on her. And then he saw the kerchief. He says, what is that? He says, well, she wrote on this with her tears. And he took it and put it up to the sun. He was able to read all the lamentation that she was lamenting on him and on her. Then she tells him that from that time on, he won't be able to find her in the castle, the place of the not good. But now he has to look for a mountain of gold and a castle made of pearls. He says, and there you'll find me. And he's going, again, through desert. Another very common motif. He's going through desert for years. And he finds this huge man carrying a huge tree. There's a huge tzaddik carrying, the huge tree. Who's that's Etz Chaim, that's wisdom. He's in charge of all the animals. That's somebody that has already subdued all his physical urges. Nefesh Bahamis. And he tells him that he's looking for a mountain of gold and a pearl of castle. And he told him there's no such thing. Somebody was fooling with you. But he says, no, I know that there is. So he sends him to his brother, another giant with another tree, who's in charge of all the birds. And the same thing repeats itself again. Tells him, this is foolishness. It doesn't exist. Somebody fooled you. And he insists, says, okay, since you insist, he says, I think it's nonsense. But if you insist, he says to his brother, that's the third giant with the giant tree that's in charge of all the winds, all the spirits. And the wind that we are talking over there, he says he calls all the winds and asks them if any one of the winds know of a mountain of gold and a pearl, and a castle of pearls. And all the winds say that there isn't. So the viceroy starts crying very, very bitterly. Then comes another wind. It's a storm wind. So the mass of the winds is upset with the winds. Says, why didn't you come together with all the winds? I summoned all the winds to come. So he said that he couldn't come because he carried the princess to a mountain of gold and a castle of pearls. He was very happy. And then that same storm wind carried him to that mountain of gold and castle of pearl. This is our situation in the 3 weeks. There is Rabbi Avraham of Nachman's. He wrote a sefer called Biur Likutim, which is considered to be the deepest parish on Likutim Aran. And in the beginning, before he actually writes his different biurim on Likutei Moharan, it's not like Likutei Halachos. Likutei Halachos is drushim. He says nobody has a reshus to darshan like Rav Nosson, because the Rebbe gave him a clean power of imagination. He says his only purpose is to understand Likutei Moharan or Kipshat. And it's an incredibly difficult sefer. And it starts with 18 principles that need to guide anybody who wants to learn Likutei Moharan to be able to touch the core. And the 12th and 13th principles are very, very telling. And in fact, the 12th principle talks about the fact that the tzaddik is talking to you. The Torah of the tzaddik is from beyond place. It's beyond the corporeal perception of place. And the 13th principle, which ended up, he wrote a lot and it ended up as a volume all its own, which he took out and put away and did not want to publish it because it is very easy for somebody who learns it to actually go out of his mental faculties learning it and loses marbles. And what he's saying there is, it's just mentioned very briefly that the words of the tzaddik, the Torah of the tzaddik, comes to us from a place beyond time. In other words, when time ends, this is when the realm of the Torah of the tzaddik begins. When we hear this, we can understand a little bit about what's going on during the 3 weeks. And the storm when taking the ship of the son of the Burgher and throwing it onto a deserted beach. Think of the scene. The viceroy is waking up from a slumber from all the facets of the Torah. His first question is, where am I in the world? In other words, he wants to know what's going on with me. What's my story? What's my real story? So he's told what his real story is. The princess was here and she cried and she lamented. What a calamity it is on you, for you, and for her. Can you imagine when somebody, just gets up and says, okay, where am I? Well, the thing is that you ruin things. You basically stunk up the joint. You ruined it for yourself and for the Shekhinah. In other words, when you are trying to actually rehabilitate yourself, there's no way for a person to rehabilitate himself unless he actually faces his true situation. Until then, if a person wants to remain in denial, no problem. You can live a nice life in denial, buy yourself the new Apple Watch, whatever it is that you want, you'll be fine. But if you're actually asking, where am I in the world? What's going to be with me? There's Olam Haba. There's really is Olam Haba. It's not just this world, and it's not just the kever. There's Olam Haba. There's Din Cheshbon. There's Tchias HaMeisim. There's Yom Adin. There's Olam Haba. And what you get is a 2x4 smack in the face. Look what you did. And you start searching. And you start searching, and the answers that you're getting is, in other words, the mountain of gold and the castle of pearl. This is the tikkun. It's your own personal tikkun, and it's the tikkun of the neshama and the tikkun of the Shekhinah. Because if it is your own calamity and the calamity of the Shekhinah, Vimela, rescuing the Shekhinah means rescuing your own neshama. And every single step of the way, he's meeting with these unbelievable tzaddikim. One that has subdued all his nefesh bahamis, that is, he is in charge of all the animal, all his animalistic urges, totally under his control. The second one is the one from the birds. In other words, he's totally in charge with all the thoughts, total thought control. Meaning he's able to control his thoughts, go into meditative states, visit places that the corporeal body cannot possibly. And the third one is the one that can actually go into prophetic states. He's in charge of all the winds, of all the spirits. And they all tell him, you're dreaming. There is no such thing. There is no hope for you. So what does he do? He starts crying. He starts crying very bitterly, and then comes the wind, and the one who's in charge says, "Why? Where were you?" He says, "I carried the princess." What's hidden here is that everybody was telling him the truth. There was no mountain of gold. There was no castle of pearls. The Shekhinah wasn't there. It's only after he would refuse to give up and went through everything and cried and insisted, I know there is, that it came into being. It came into being from beyond time and place. We need the Torah of the tzaddik, whose Torah is coming beyond time and place. Because all the tremendous, amazing tzaddikim that were and are unbelievable, Balem Moifes, Baruch HaKodesh, unbelievable. For themselves, they can, but for us, there's no hope. When we come and says, listen, I need a tikkun for myself. I did a lot of stuff during my life, which I'm very sorry for. Now, I told my neighbor, I wish I were what what other people think that I am. Alas, I'm not. There is no hope in the realm of time and place. The hope is beyond time and place. Am Yisrael has been written off throughout history. They've been downtrodden, they've been persecuted, they've been killed, burned, drowned, stabbed, tortured to death. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for a mountain of gold and a castle of pearls. I'm looking for the Beis HaMikdash. And everybody's telling us there is no such thing. There's no such thing. You're kidding yourself. The only thing that we can do during these 3 weeks is simply to insist. I know there is. I know there is. And when they're putting proof smack into my face that it does not exist, from a physical point of view, political point of view, philosophical point of view, spiritual point of view, religious point of view, whatever it is that you want, and I don't have any answers anymore, then it says, I start crying. And this brings the Ashgacha from beyond time and place. It's the Torah of the Tzaddik of beyond time and place. We do not belong in this world. We are not of this world at all. We live in this world. We eat food from this world. We may look like other people in this world. When people check our anatomy, it looks like that of everyone in this world, but we are something else entirely. We are the quintessential aliens. We are Hebrews. Avram Ivri. Where is it? Ivri, the entire world is on one side, and Avram Avinu is on the other side. Ever Hasheni from the other side. A beyonder. What we are hoping for is we're dealing with this world. You see that the son of the Burgher, the Burgher, he's going, he has to hunt for animals, he has to eat, he finds a place. He does what he does, and it's sort of like brings him down. I'm fine. I don't have to chase to start going back. There's no way to go back. We'll talk a little bit more about this. I have food. I said he has a bow and arrow. That means that Shmir Sabris, that he's holy, that's the thing that saves him from all the bad animals. And then Rabbeinu says something peculiar about the fact that he hunted a rabbit or a deer, which is, what is a rabbit doing here? About this in Mitzvah Hashem we'll talk B'li Neder next week. But the main nekuda that we need to bring out is lamenting now, crying now, is the thing that brings our Geula. Because our Geula is beyond time and place. It doesn't exist. It can't exist. Physically, politically, philosophically, spiritually, I don't care, whatever it is that you want. It cannot exist. There's no such thing. But with the crying that we're doing, or with the crying that we want to do, the crying that we cry why we're not crying, we're bringing this from the place of beyond time and beyond place through the Torah of the Tzaddik, whose Torah is coming beyond time and beyond place, Rabbeinu HaKadosh. B'ezrat Hashem, we're zoche to see the Binyan Beis HaMikdash soon in our days, B'ezrat Hashem. B'ezrat Hashem, everybody will be in Hashem in Uman for Shoshana, b'simcha and safely. The closer we come to Geula, the more difficult it becomes to get there. All it takes is wanting. This Erev Rosh Chodesh, I know that is Kahalos, they're getting together, is a get-together of Breslov in base. I'm not exactly sure where it is. We have to find out what it is we're doing with our share. I don't see why we should not have a share, because that Kahalos happens before. Maybe we'll do a bit later. I'll speak with Avi Stab, and we'll find out what to do. But everybody is supposed to tear the heavens, as it were. So B'ezrat Hashem will be able to be by Rabbeinu Rosh Hashanah, because everything depends on that. Everything depends on that. Rabbeinu's tziyun is beyond time and place. All our chiyus is from there. Hashem's Baruch should help. Thank you very much for being here. It's Hashem. On Wednesday, we have the Likutei Moharan Shir. We are learning Torah Chaf Hei, Shem Yazo, B'ezrat Hashem.